Okay, it says I'm live. I better get my script open then. Yeah. Good luck. Hey there, everybody. I've got stuff that I can't even show you. It's like I'd have to take a picture of the screen and then show it back to you. I've had problems with Screencastify. I paid for it. I have the paid subscription to do educational videos, and that's the truth. Because I'm just wanting to deal with facts. This is supposed to be about the PlayStation 5, and I'll just tell you right now the facts. Get rid of the DRAM and go SRAM only. Also delay the project 12 months, and AMD's going to go from 7 nanometer to 5 nanometer, and they're saying greater than an 80% reduction in square area, shifting from the process of 7 nanometer to 5 nanometer. And just so you know how they're able to achieve that, the 7 nanometer and 10 nanometer stuff, really 7 or 10. The reason Intel is still working with 14 nanometer is there are some large, thicker wires, like the jumper cables on your car work better if they're thicker and don't heat up if they're thicker. And so there are features, they're just, those are the less often used places, but they're still important. Traffic routing and things like that. Less used video processing, maybe. I actually don't know which logic gates or circuits or areas on the die use the smaller stuff. I've just seen images because I've always been interested in something called strained germanium or silicon germanium, where the germanium is used to strain the lattice work of the silicon. And germanium also oscillates at a higher frequency than like everything else. It's the basis of your cell phones and your new 60 gigahertz. Like, I'm not even sure why we're talking about 5 gigahertz. And we've been talking about 5 gigahertz since like 2005. 5 gigahertz was silver. And it was what IBM in their Power 7 processors used. The Power 7 Plus was, instead of copper, silver. And the silver was achieving 5 gigahertz over in Korea. I don't know what they're making public to the customers inside the United States, but Korea was one of the major radar towers for controlling and attacking China. There's blame towards Russia and all sorts of. You're looking for phased array antennas. The video itself from Cerny tells a lot of interesting information. It suggests that maybe there's hacking going on, where there are features in the CPU that people don't have access to or fully comprehend. You know, chasing a maze that operates on 4-bit, 5-bit, and 3-bit, and things that people do their best to figure out. But until somebody puts some instructions or data into little traffic cop nodes to decide where things get steered around inside the processor, it's a little bit of a guess. So the theft from AMD just this week, grabbing the source code for the Navi processors and for the Xbox One, which has a strange name, like starting with an A. AMD source code theft. I won't say theft, but they say leak because it's unprotected. Ooh, it takes a while to read all this, but so just it's really important if you look into L1 and all that it all should be larger or more numerous. Many little pools of data. I was recommending to Cerny that there be 32 kilobit pools 128 times for a total of 8 megabytes of L1 cache per core. And then I was saying for L2 cache, to do 4 megabyte pools and 4 megabyte pools and maybe 16. And so that would be 64 megabytes of L2 per core. And then the shared cache would be, I think I figured like 128. That doesn't sound right. It sounds too small. It was like 128 per core is what I was looking at. I don't even have my notes on the screen. Let me see what's going on here with my notes. But again, what I was wanting to say and start talking about something else is that the SRAM is as fast as the processor. Going back to the PlayStation 3 with IBM, I couldn't understand why they were going to have the memory bus operate at half frequency. I couldn't understand why other products were using DRAM, dynamic random access memory. The dynamic part is always deleting the information, always removing any history or usage records. And that slows things down. If you know what you're doing, why would you always be deleting it? It's like someone knocking over the table and you have to reassemble your Girl Scout or Boy Scout cookie table. I'm going to say Boys and Girls Club. Boys and Girls Club is really what we need more of. And trying to put together your Boys and Girls Club cookie table. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are named backwards. I mean, like, girls would be scouting boys and boys would be scouting girls. And nobody should be a brownie and nobody should be a Weeblo person. I was like, someone played a horrible joke on Powell, who was like the founder of the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts a long time ago. I'm sure he's a good guy, but whatever happened afterwards, those names cannot have possibly been how he created that thing. Otherwise, the population control nutcases that attack everybody, I tell them to invent viruses with umbrella names. And that's literally what the current virus is called. It's called umbrella virus. And I think that people should use that word. It's the umbrella virus. It's way more honest, but at the same time, we're trying to figure out who made it. Did USA make it? Did the CDC make it? And then Joe Biden motioned on PBS, Real Clear Politics, hey, there are people over there that are smarter than you. You should get rid of them. And so it's like, oh, okay, Biden. And then like immediately, it's like November 19th or something. They've got like a case somewhere where somebody's having like SARS. They've got SARS. The first case was actually SARS, not umbrella virus. And so it's like they found one person who had SARS, and so they released like some sort of CDC poison on China and South Korea, North Korea, and like, I don't know. I do know, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't spread like it's been spreading. Iran, supposedly, the way it was worded, was like ordered by the power of God to go over there and bring the plague to itself. Politicians in cities. The cities are a strange Nordic coffee pot thing. And people don't understand that if you don't let people decrease their property to rural and agricultural, the coffee pot will shatter. This is true. This isn't an I don't know where that came from. I would have to be able to show you, but I'm trying to go for reliability here. We're going to make this a 10-minute video, and I'll try again with my notes up on the screen. And anyways, the umbrella virus. The first case was SARS. Then Biden ordered, hey, there are smart people over there. We better get rid of them. And he set free all that on PBS during the debate. Like, that's not good. And people actually canceled the broadcast of the debate live from PBS to on certain networks that it was airing because they saw what he was doing and saying. I'm like, whoever that person, that's one of those smart people. It's like, you're not coming for me. You go take care of yourself. Leave me alone. Anyways, The umbrella virus. That's the correct name for it. But is it the Hubei umbrella virus or is it the USA umbrella virus? Uh, I'm looking at the statistics, and it is somebody evil, and I won't go into it too much. As always, there's somebody out there who's a former religious person. I find them to be the most evil. The current religious people are just stupid, and I'm a current religious people. I speak up in church when they preach wrong, and sometimes I get trespassed because I'm an honest Christian, and there aren't many of those. When I was a kid, all my teenage peers told me, "This place is so hypocritical. Everybody's such a hypocrite." I'm like, "All right, I will speak up." So, and you know, why don't teenagers have non-hypocrites in church? Because somebody has done the laws wrong, and you really need to change it so that they're considered public spaces, not private property. All not-for-profits need to be declared public property, and like parks and recreation areas, and they have limited powers or restrictions, and they don't get the 1 year trespass. They can have like a 1 month cooling period or something. Escort someone out for a month or something. They also shouldn't be arrested. It's just a warning. When I was at the Baptist church, they only warned me. They didn't have me arrested. So it's just strange stuff. The Baptists are preaching that the altar of David is the widest wood on earth. I'm like, y'all really like your albino unicorns, albino turkeys, albino chickens, albino pig. You even tried to make the cow albino, but when it comes to meat, everybody knows the dark meat tastes better. The red meat tastes better. The red bacon tastes better. And everybody's messed up in the head fighting to make everything veal. I'm like, veal is children. Why are y'all trying to choose the meat of children? That doesn't make any sense. But anyways, yeah, the umbrella virus is just weird that I talk about all those other things because it is religiously driven. Good people are in every religion. And the problem is that there's military people that have been editing all the religious books and the hymnals specifically, and the hymnal selections, and the daily readings if you're a Latvian Catholic. I'm not going to call them Roman Catholic anymore. They're Latvian Catholics. And that's an umbrella virus, like Resident Evil with the Umbrella Corp. I don't know anything about the Resident Evil movies. I'm not an insider to whatever art language that is, but the fact is, somebody caught a flu. Somebody used radar. I didn't even get to say that in this video. Somebody used radar to damage the lungs and trigger coughing and do all sorts of stuff negative to the biology and kill off people. And I'm sure that there's going to be genetic correlations. Cerny in his presentation actually said that by reducing the amount of RAM from 16 to 8, which is mostly idle, they could probably save more lives because the Army got in with AMD and created the trusted zone requirement so that all the Xbox and PlayStations are actually a secret, super powerful computer spread across the earth, doing things in smaller chunks. Part of the original IBM invention was something of a cloud computing nature, and cloud computing nature. But the joke about it is cell for controlling human beings and radio waves and radar towers. 3D radar is able to image you like the CRT scan lines on a TV. The 3D radar does the same thing all around, so it has like a 3D image of every person in its region. There's nothing to block it from reaching people on the ground. The horizon is curved, and so if it's shooting over the horizon, it's shooting through people. And radio waves also bend like light waves bend through water moisture. So It's just a fact. But it's all military. People try and blame it on Microsoft and others, but whoever is doing the contracting for the military, which was in a lot of ways IBM. I've kind of seen confessions about that from John E. Kelly III, on his IBM fireside chat, searching for cohorts and all that in 2018. And that's just a fact, though. Cell processor and processing video signals, radar signals, and transmitting controls, and doing that Jarvis Iron Man thing that Snowden actually did, where the database can move around, and they have something called herd and mock kernels. These microkernels are more like keys, door keys. They're little teeth that fit into the tumblers. And the problem is those memory caches and circuit logic nodes, they're typically called L1 cache or instruction cache and data cache. And these herd kernels, they connect up those things in the correct way and unlock or optimize the processor for whatever it was originally designed for or intended for. And so they operate a lot faster and unlocks the memory space. So that's not a secret. Your 64-bit processors are only 46-bit. When I was a kid, they said 48-bit. The addressing of memory space was actually not 64-bit. There was something going on where the real address space was cut off, so that 16-bit of each 64-bit processor was running a external kernel or microkernel. They went through this time of calling them hybrid kernels, where you have a microkernel and a monolithic kernel. And the microkernel might be a 16-bit operating system because Unicode, the character system, is only 16-bit. And a lot of math can be 16-bit. Things just aren't as precise as people think. If you're aiming across a horizon or vertical, 16 bits vertical. Let me tell you what that is real quick. 2 to the power of 16 equals, whoa, that's 65,000 horizontal lines. I don't know a camera that has 65,000 horizontal lines. Right now, your 4K is 4,000 horizontal lines. So a TV that instead of 4,000, your 4K TV is 4,000. We're talking about 65. And let's just divide that. 65, 532 divide 4,000. Yeah, I need this symbol here, wherever it is. Divided. I have to type it manually. Somebody disabled. Yeah. So it's like 16 times taller than your 4K TV. 16.384. That was actually the amount of memory I'd said for 6 cores, I think. But that's confusing because that's just the 64-bit value. So I don't know what to make of that. Oh, yeah, I said 8. I said L3 was 8 gigabytes. I don't know why I wasn't able to say that my whole video. It's like, duh. I saw some processors, 12 nanometer by 12 nanometer by 1 nanometer, 12 millimeter. Oh, it says 1.2 centimeter by 1.2 centimeter, and then 1 millimeter thick. And that's the finished external memory chip for a phone. That can do 38 gigabytes a second per chip. Video games, it doesn't seem like much to you, but they put them around, a whole bunch of them. The fact is, you can do something called quad porting instead of single porting. So with that 8 gigabits, they could quad port it, and just, let's say 4 times 4, 160 gigabits. That's not bad, but that was DRAM, and we want to get away from DRAM to SRAM. I was just using it as a reference for size, saying that the Xbox is it's probably not square, but the area when I did the math was, and I did do the math for what they said the area was, and I square rooted it just to come up with a square number. It's 19 millimeters by 19 millimeters, or 1.9 centimeters by 1.9 centimeters. The number of layers is unknown, but Intel and most of the market, after they invented something called FinFET transistors, then created a 3D stacking system that allows the logic of SRAM to be better stacked on top of itself. I'm like, sure, they've always had these things because SRAM's always been SRAM. It's always had the underpass overpass. But the new process is smaller and is more universal. They can like put it anywhere in the processor. Some of the old things from a long time ago, 15 years ago. Hi, I'm 40. And anyway, some of the processors from a long time ago did a lot of edge they experimented with, they said everything was Manhattan architecture. They introduced a middle layer that was an X and like 45, but I forgot what the term was for the 45 routes. They now have new, just straight line to wherever it needs to be stuff. And they can stack dozens of layers. Where with the AMD Barton, which was my first computer purchase brand new, was an AMD Barton 25 or 2800. I think it was a 2800. Yeah, it was a 2800, and I overclocked it to 3200. And fantastic processor, 512 megabits of cache. The instruction cache on the new AMDs is too small and too large. It's also reversed. For some reason, stay away from this house. Fresh air outside. I like reality. Okay, so this is way too long. I will write this down. Well, I already have notes for the presentation that I'll go through. And I was just trying to tell you something about the processors and that you want to do SRAM. And there's a lot of reversing going on because they when I asked for way back in the PlayStation 2 days before the PlayStation 3. Except I didn't know to use YouTube or if YouTube even existed back then. And I've been demanding it for a long time. Came to Rambus's attention, their major company. I got upset with Rambus back in the Pentium 4 days. I didn't like Pentium 4. It was slow. The mobile processor was faster. And I started looking at things, and thankfully there were some good reporters who I hope to find and credit cited that Rambus is a faster first pop, but faster transfer, but slower first pop. So random access, stuff like that, it's not so good. But for streaming, it's not bad. However, SRAM is still much, much faster than anything DRAM can do. And they've always known that. SRAM is as fast as the processor. It doesn't make any sense to limit ourselves to external memory.